From milkshakes to baijiu, Mark Salzman takes readers on a journey through China in his 1986 book, Iron and Silk, which is filled with food, culture, and history. Etiquette in China strongly differs from American etiquette, as Mark Salzman points out in his travel memoir. During Salzman's journey throughout rural and urban China, he discovers many different traditional foods and their customs.
When traveling to China, you may find yourself a guest in someone's house or a host in your own house. Either way, there are customs in China that you may need to know. Whenever guests arrive at a house, there are snacks or a meal prepared. Mark Salzman mentions this in his travel memoir, Iron and Silk. When he is arriving at his fisherman friend's house at Old Ding, he sees the women of the family running inside to make food. When he arrived, he had an abundance of food set out for him. Although Old Ding and his family are poor, they make sure to have plenty of food for the guest. In America, food and drinks are offered, but they aren't always set out or expected, whereas the Chinese usually have the food out and you are meant to eat it. Although this isn't a significant difference from American society, when you are a host, it is especially important to have food whenever your guests arrive. Then you'll be all set to host a dinner party in China.
In China, it is rude for children to eat with guests. This is because children are supposed to respect their elders, and because if the children annoy the guest, it would be embarrassing to the parents. In Iron and Silk, when Salzman visits the home of his first wushu teacher, Dr. Li, he notices that Dr. Li's children are eating in a different room than them, and asks why. Dr. Li responds, "That would be rude, wouldn't it?" Again, Salzman is confronted with this situation when he visits the home of his wushu master, Pan King Fu. Pan introduces his children to Salzman, but then sends them away and begins dinner with a toast. Eating is a very important part of Chinese culture, and it is very important in China that children do not spoil it.
Alcohol in China is imperative during meals or occasions at a host house or at a restaurant. A Chinese host will feel like it is their main priority to make their guests drunk or at least have a drink, unlike a typical American host who would not. Salzman experiences this tradition when teacher Wei, one of his college teachers, is teaching him a Chinese lesson, and she says before the lesson, "From now on I will bring a small bottle of baijiu, or Chinese rice liquor, when I come. You will finish it, then we will have our lesson." At first Salzman thought she was joking, but then realized he was really not going to have the lesson if he didn't finish. If you plan to be in China, you should finish your baijiu as a sign of respect. Another common custom in China is toasting, a lot of toasting. Salzman encounters this tradition when he is having dinner with Lin, a friend of Master Zhang, one of his wushu teachers. During the meal, Salzman mentions Lin raising his glass up to be toasted every 5 minutes. When toasting, Chinese toasts loudly announce "Ganbei," meaning dry the glass. As a foreigner, it is important to remember to maintain eye contact while making a toast.
Even though China is one of the biggest economies, they have no real grasp of what American food is like. This is because the Chinese government does not want their people to become influenced by other cultures. Dr. Li's children were far too shy to carry on a conversation with me. One did ask if Chinese food was like American food. I tried to describe a typical American meal to them, but this proved to be difficult. How do you describe a pizza to someone who has never seen cheese, tomato sauce, or a pie crust? Another difference between Americans and Chinese is that Americans usually eat more for breakfast. I figured this would be the last Western food I would see for some time, so I ordered it. It turned out to be a ham sandwich, a single slice of ham on 2 squares of dried up bread with no butter or mayonnaise. Look at the foreigner. How does he eat so much at 7 in the morning? In China's culture, the people grow up with only rice, pork, noodles, and seafood. Whereas in America, the people grow up with all different cultures and all different food choices. So it is not unusual for Chinese people to have a strong reaction to American food.
Where Americans take the accessibility of these foods for granted, the Chinese are astonished by these ordinary American meals. For example, other than eating chicken as the main course for a family dinner, it is a common condiment on salads and sandwiches for a typical American lunch. In China, chicken is considered a treat and enjoyed only on special occasions. In Iron and Silk, Mark Salzman talks about his dinner with Teacher Wu. He says, "We had a delicious meal of smoked eggs, noodles, pork strips and broth, and a whole chicken, a real luxury in China, only for special occasions." How important meals are in China becomes even clearer later when Salzman questions Teacher Zhu about his happiest moment. The teacher describes a restaurant in Beijing, China, famous for its Beijing duck. The restaurant served marinated pig stomach and sea slugs followed by steamed fish. After that, the celebrated duck was served. Teacher Zhu described the duck skin as brown and crispy and shiny. With one taste, it was like clouds disappearing. He followed that by saying even though he actually never visited the restaurant, his wife had, and that made it his happiest moment. Clearly, the Chinese regard an outstanding meal as an art to be respected.
Traveling to a faraway country can be intimidating, but one thing we as foreigners can relate to is to not be rude. The Chinese culture is a very proper and dignified one, as shown in their many customs. When dining with a Chinese host, you must be sure to eat all of the food and drink given to you, especially rice and noodles. It is considered exceptionally rude to not finish what is given to you. I will bring a small bottle of beiju when I come. You will finish it, then we will have our lesson. As depicted, the Chinese feel as though you are obligated to finish anything given to you. Not wanting to be rude, I put the bing lang into my mouth. When introduced to a new food offered to him, Solomon is a bit uneasy about trying it. But if uneaten, the host would consider him impudent, and this could lead to losing face. Overall, finishing food is a crucial part to living a normal life in China.
When traveling to China, don't be the typical Boobus Americanus and make use of these beneficial tips. Thank you for watching.